Away from that, as Nigeria commemorates the International Day of Support for Victims of Torture, advocacy groups want the federal government to now address the delay in implementing the rules and regulations for the Anti-Torture Act as a way of ending torment in the country. Helen Osamede-Akins Reports.
On the 26th of June every year, the world marks the International Day in support of victims of torture. Torture is a crime under international law as presented in the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman and Demeaning Forms of Treatment or Punishments. In 2017, the country domesticated the convention through the enactment of its anti-torture law, known as the Anti-Torture Act 2017. 5 years after the passage of the Anti-Torture Act into law, torture remains prevalent and is commonly used by security agencies. As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to commemorate this day, civil society organizations like ASF France believe the government has not shown enough commitment to putting an end to torture in the country.
There is no protection for victims of torture. When victims make a report, on our part, we provide legal assistance. However, there is no form of support or protection that is provided by the government. It is one thing for us to ask victims of torture to come forward, to speak, to report, but we also have to understand that a lot of victims of torture are afraid of reprisal.
But the government says it has put in place several mechanisms to protect citizens' rights against torture, but citizens continue to ignore them.
If the federal government has set up this national preventive mechanism, it means that the government is out to curb these menace. So if the victims comes forward to report to the committee, we will take steps to prosecute the perpetrators of the act.
Victims of torture are required to report acts of torture, but they hardly report acts of torture. Perhaps they think that they don't benefit from it. With compensation, they may be encouraged to report acts of torture so that the National Committee Against Torture can take action.
Government must demonstrate a strong commitment to ending torture in Nigeria by ensuring that victims of torture get justice beyond words of mouth. Helen Osamede-Akins, TVC News, Abuja.